Welcome to International Dispute Negotiation, your guide to resolving disputes everywhere.
This is Mike McElrath, and this podcast is about different ways of accepting and managing the risks of dispute resolution, presenting them through the eyes of experts from different countries and backgrounds. Well, this is Mike McElrath, Senior Litigation Counsel for GE Oil and Gas, and I'm here today in Paris speaking with Thierry Garby, who's a partner at the Laren law firm here in Paris, as well as one of the lead or coordinators of CMAP, which is the Mediation and Arbitration. Now, am I speaking wrong here? Did you tell me what CMAP is and does and what your role has been there?
CMAP is the Mediation and Arbitration Center of Paris, and I'm just a mediator and arbitrator with them, and I'm not one of the leads or responsible for the institution. It's actually the Chamber of Commerce, Paris Chamber of Commerce, which is the lead in this.
See, and the reason I make this mistake is that I always have associated you as the sort of the voice of mediation in France, and so you'll forgive me if I associate you as the founder of the institution or the lead voice for it. I mean,
Thank you, Michael.
I hope you'll agree with me that you have been very active in promoting mediation and doing everything you can to try to make sure that people understand what it is. And in fact, that's one of the things I wanted to ask you about is, in your view today, given all the work that you've done with legislation, with institutions, and with clients, where does mediation stand today in France?
Clearly, mediation was designed by the government, by the Chamber of Commerce at the beginning to take care of small matters. The idea was to help small businesses to avoid going to court. This market has totally disappeared, and it's now for big business. The clients today are major companies, sometimes in disputes with small companies, but it's becoming big business. The usual amount in dispute at the early stage was about 15,000 euros. Today, we count by millions.
Really?
Yeah.
What do you think is driving the migration over towards big? Is it the problem with the courts, or is it the complexity of the disputes?
No, I think that unlike a number of other countries, litigation in France is reasonably expeditious and cheap. You don't pay for the court. Yeah.
It's on documents too, so it's not like there's a lot of witness testimony usually.
Lawyers have smaller bills than in other countries, so that the question of avoiding court is not really the main driver to mediation. The question is how to get a better solution, how to better end your negotiation. If you have a deadlock in negotiation, how can you solve it? That's the driver. That's really why people come to mediation. And those who can understand this are those who are at a high level, who really want an amicable settlement. That's mainly for big businesses. Big
businesses that work on relationships, complex, long-term contracts.
And general counsels who understand the difficulties of negotiation and what mediation can bring to that, what a neutral can bring to mediation, to negotiation.
So it's interesting to see that you really see that there's been a movement in France in recent years towards a much more sophisticated adoption and use of mediation.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
How do you think that compares?
When I talk to my American colleagues who say they have thousands of mediations, and when you talk to them and see this court enacts mediation with a lot of small cases, we don't have this. And we're fairly unlikely to have them in the future.
How do you think that mediation compares with other countries in Europe, in France today? I mean, compared with what's happening in Germany or Italy? Because I know that you've been very active also internationally.
As far as I know, the situation is very comparable in France in Italy, in Belgium. It will probably soon be like this in Switzerland. It's developing on a slow pace in Switzerland. Of course, it's gone much quicker in England because of the Lord Wolf reform. But finally, I guess, and England is a very expansive judicial system, so
Right.
people are more driven toward mediation for this reason. I would say that in continental Europe, it should be the general trend that you go to mediation for better solutions or for help in your negotiation rather than in order to avoid the courts.
I often, when I talk to people about this, give the examples of where the two countries I know fairly well from mediations that we've done or tried to do. One is Italy, the other is Norway. Italy, as you know, tried a very top-down approach to legislate mediation at the highest levels and require mediation in many different instances. And I don't think that was successful in promoting the concept in Italy. It still is it's taking time for it to sink in with practitioners.
The problem that happened in Italy and in France, in Buenos Aires, and a number of jurisdictions is that they had legislation before they had mediators.
Right.
So that they decided that you should go to mediation where there was no one to mediate, properly trained, so that it was originally a very big difficulty because people were appointed as mediators. They had no clue of what they should do, and they were very bad mediators, and that was very detrimental to mediation in general.
Right.
People had such bad experiences that they never wanted to go back to mediation. So now it's slowly improving. But the first years were absolutely disastrous, be it in Italy or in France.
Well, but the experiences I've had in Norway, and again, this is all anecdotal rather than being driven on data, but it's based on some of the experiences we've had with some of our disputes, is that that mediation is actually very broadly accepted and welcomed by Norwegian companies. And I discovered this, I think, in part because Norway's a small country, so I guess news travels very quickly. Most lawyers there tend to be general practitioners. And I was told that they passed a law there some years ago that requires mediation in the case of family disputes